In today's show, Brandon Sprague from Jacked Ramseys and 1080 The Fan joins the show, and we talk all things Shaedon Sharpe, Scoot Henderson, and the future of the Trailblazers. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen. Joining me today and all this week, friend of the program. You've heard him on 1080 The Fan, 6 to 9 a.m. on Dirt and Sprague. You've heard him on Jacked Ramseys whenever they do a show. They're irregular. It's my man, Brandon Sprague. How you doing?
As the third best member of Dirt and Sprague on the show weekly, as you like to point out, I'm doing great. I would like to point out, it's good to be back on. We're already dealing with a home court situation here. So my perspective of what looks like, I'm pretty sure I'm taller than you, but you've Colin Cowherded me. Your desk is up higher. Your camera's zoomed in better. And so now I feel like I'm significantly smaller than you right now.
Yeah, it's true. Even if our eye lines are the same, I'm just bigger because I'm zoomed into the camera. That's what we do here. I go with the full Cowherd with the giant throne, and I bring all of my guests in on the little chair, and I just grill them. I just grill them with hot takes for a little bit. No, I'm probably not going to grill you. That's not really my style, but I am super happy to have you here. We do this often in August where Sprague joins the program and we talk sort of Blazers future during the doldrums. Let's just start here. This time last year, you were calling Shaedon Sharpe baby Kobe with a fair amount of regularity. Still baby Kobe? You still there?
Still baby Kobe question mark? I mean, look, I'm not going to abandon the take. It's fun to give guys ridiculous nicknames or nicknames that don't even necessarily point out what they are. Look, did I exaggerate with a turnaround fadeaway in Summer League? I absolutely did, but he's hyper athletic like Kobe. He plays a similar position. I just want to live in the land of they got baby Kobe. He's the biggest question mark to their season. I know we're going to get into a lot of players and give takes and is this guy going to be great or what are they going to do with that guy? He is easily, for me, the most interesting Blazer going into the 24-25 season. So is he baby Kobe? Question mark is more of how I say that now because I want it to be true. But I don't think anybody can sit here with a straight face and tell you they know.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at with him, right? It's like, I get it with Shaedon Sharpe. I think fans, like the typical Blazer fan, is just like they're hyped on Shaedon Sharpe, and they should be, right? Because he's got the tools, and he's had these moments where it's like, yeah, like that's a very good NBA player. He can score from all three levels when he gets it going. He hasn't been a very good defender in the NBA, but he's super young, but he has like the physical tools to be a pretty good defensive player in the NBA, right? Like he's like a two-way wing with some self-creation ability. Like he's got star stuff, but we just don't know. We don't know. I feel like that's the real truth is like, you can't be super confident. And yet, like you said, I think he's the most important player on the Blazers roster because to me, and I wonder your take on this, does anyone have a higher ceiling than Sharpe? When you look at this team, is there anyone on the roster that potentially has a higher ceiling than Shaedon Sharpe?
Well, let's also say this too. They don't know. We don't know. Right. They don't know. And this is getting into rookie max extension territory. So like, what is that going to be? If he doesn't give you more than like 45 games next year, it's the biggest wild card, I think, for them. And organizationally, it's got to be a tough spot to be in. I mean, if we're talking high-end ceiling, I'm not really sure it's a conversation. Like, it has to be him. But if we're talking immediate impact, and I know we'll get into it, the way the team is built right now, you know, on a consistency basis, you got to wonder about the Clinger a little bit and what he's going to mean to them defensively on the boards and just having kind of his presence. But yeah, I mean, come on. You and I talk and text all the time. I think largely when we talk Blazers, we share some differing opinions, but largely we kind of are level-headed about it. He absolutely has the highest ceiling of anybody on the roster. The most difficult thing is like you and I can sound off opinions on it. But I think if we asked Joe Cronin, he wouldn't know what to say because organizationally they're stuck going, we're hoping this year he shows us.
Yeah, I mean, he played 32 games last season in his second season. Year one, like he started out and he was bad. but he like had some stuff to him, but he was bad. I think that doesn't seem revisionist in my mind. And then he had that stretch at the end of year one where it's like they gave him the ball for 10 games in a really weird scenario, but he was awesome, right? And you can give the ball to a lot of dudes in 10 game scenario, and they might not do that. I would say his counterpart, who was drafted the second year, like for one, a year later for one, but like,
yeah.
They just haven't seen a ton of him. Two things. One, Shaedon Sharpe was not injured year one. He was not injured year one. He missed one game. He technically played 80 games, but he missed one game because the other game they held him out so they could lose to the Spurs. God bless the Trailblazers and their commitment to losing. Year two, he had injuries. Okay. But it's not been a big part of his season. It was 1 year and it was a lot of it. He missed 50 games. You mentioned the max contract. What would Shaedon Sharpe have to do in year three to get a $200 million deal?
Oh man. Do you think there's anything he could do to make you feel like amazing about that? I think that's the difficult thing. I mean,
I wouldn't sign him to almost nothing short of like 25-5 would I sign him to a max contract extension. And like, well, and 25-5 might even have to have some context, right? Like it's
sure. Well, I think, Mike, I sometimes we venture into stupid territory here with some of the things we talk about with basketball. And I understand that this is probably one of them. One of my things with him, it's not just like health, like what's his production, what are his stats, you know, what are they going to sign it? It's like, does he strike you as a guy who carries himself like star player? And look, he doesn't need to be Mr. Media. Kawhi Leonard, point case, right? Like case in point, guy doesn't like necessarily talk much and give you much personality, but he's kind of a rarity in that regard. And like, there's an element of Shaedon. I look at him like, do you think you're a star? You got that? Do you have energy to be a star? There's no way it's a $200 million deal. And I think if anything, the NBA offseason's taught me, aside from the term second apron and how everybody I just envision with like a chef's outfit on now cooking in their kitchen, if Brandon Ingram's not going to get an extension, I don't know what Shaedon Sharpe has done or will need to do to get that kind of an extension. And that's like, honestly, I don't think that's realistic. I think the Blazers are going to play it smart. At least I hope. He wants the $200 million deal, as every player does. But I mean, dude, you're talking like north of 27 to me, with like incredible shooting splits and 5 rebounds and maybe 6 assists or reverse. Like, it's got to be something that we don't really see coming and showing us like he carries himself with that star quality to be having that conversation. Because otherwise, there's not a chance he should be a $200 million player.
Yeah, I don't think he's in line for a max contract. I don't think that will be a conversation. I'm just throwing it out there because you mentioned this is max contract situation. Like, I don't think Shaedon's people will come to the table and be like, "Hi, yes, 5 for 217, please." It's like, no,
we like the Mo Wagner. We like the Franz Wagner, please. Like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, give us the Evan Mobley, right? It's like it's different. It's Scotty Barnes, right? It's as it can be, but it's just. You know, I don't think there's a world. Is there a world where he gets a fat contract and he gets shy of the max, and maybe in the new NBA environment, like the no-brainer maxes, and he's not a no-brainer max to be clear, but like there's a world in which like he's negotiating for, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars in an extension, but a little bit different money. We'll see what that would be. But to me, it's like, I think Shaedon Sharpe can be really good in year 3, but there's almost nothing he could do where I'd say, yeah, lock him up for a million years, because that's not how it works. Like, he'll enter year 4. You can sign it, you know, if he doesn't sign that extension, he'll enter year 4, and then he'll be a restricted free agent, and they can just pay him what he earns in the market if he signs another contract, or they can just negotiate when he gets to the summer. There's no actual risk. The only risk is like kind of making him mad. And as you mentioned, I have no, like, what would make Shaedon Sharpe mad? I don't really know if there's a thing that he'd be like, I am gravely offended by the way I've been treated. Like, sure, he certainly has that in him, but I don't know that we will be able to see that or perceive that.
Well, you know, it's kind of similar to me of like Jaylen Brown got left off Team USA, and it became this like Nike versus non-Nike athlete, and he's sounding off against Grant Hill. And like, that's a guy that clearly cares. He wants to be on that roster. They need him. I mean, they didn't today against Serbia. But like, did Shaedon show any of that with Canada? And Canada's a good team. Like, Canada's pretty loaded for an international team. They're loaded with NBA guys. And Shaedon was barely invited to practice with them. And I didn't see any posts. I didn't see any like, oh, how dare they? And so it's like, that's kind of what I'm talking about. And I'm almost wondering, with Portland, because I know we'll get into like structure and how they're building and what we see versus what it is. Have they put themselves in a spot organizationally where even if it's like, let's say he averaged, you asked for this a while ago, an optimistic season, what does that look like, right? Realistic optimism. If he averages 20 points on 37% from 3 and 4 and 5, are they kind of like forced to have to pay him a certain amount that maybe it's not the 200 barrier we're talking, but it's still an amount that most of us go, you sure about that? Like, I wonder organizationally with this rebuild, and this is the most interesting stuff of rebuild. It's decisions of who you pay, when you pay them, and is it doubling down on, we cannot be wrong on this stuff, because you don't want to be wrong on Shaedon, you don't want to be wrong on Scoot, because if you are and you admit that, then you start to kind of question the way you're getting rebuilt, and people start kind of calling up and wondering and talking, and so it's like I almost wonder, are they putting themselves in a spot where it's like almost no matter what, they're probably going to pay him an amount that most of us go, ooh, I don't know about that one, but it's their 7th pick and they put so much into him.
Oh, I mean, Shaedon Sharpe's going to be on the team on a long-term contract. I'd bet any amount of money on Shaedon Sharpe signing, maybe not next summer, but I'd like, there is, like you said, like organizationally and organizational investment. I think this is a really big part of kind of where they are.
Yeah.
A lot of what they've done to themselves and then not done to the rest of the roster, like they have to get Shaedon Sharpe and Scoot Henderson correct. Let's talk Scoot a little bit. Like in the second segment, let's chat a little bit of Scoot, because I think he's a fascinating one for kind of where they are right now. Join us in that second segment, won't you? Today's show is brought to you by Gametime. It's the place for last-minute tickets with up to 60% off when you're purchasing last-minute tickets. So if you want to go to a game this summer, why not go to the place that rewards you for waiting a little bit, like day of waiting or hour of waiting, or even after the game starts? You can find some deals on Gametime. What I really like is it's super clean to use. You pull up the app, a couple clicks, exactly what you're looking for. The venue shows up on your phone. You can see right where your seats are in the venue, and what you see is what you get with their pricing. So if it says it's going to be $54 to get in the building, it's going to be $54. There's no convenience fee. There's no surprise. There's no nothing. So take the guesswork out of buying last-minute tickets with the Gametime app. Here's what you do. You download that app, you create an account, use the redemption code LOCKEDONNBA, get $20 off your first purchase. Again, super simple. Download the app, create an account, and use the redemption code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA. Get $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. It's game time. All right, still chatting with Brandon Sprague. 1080 The Fan, Jacked Ramseys. You've heard him. He's on your radio waves. He's on your YouTube channels, podcast feeds. You've heard him talking to microphones for like 12 years or something, a long time. He's been doing it forever.
12 years.
Yeah, he's been doing it a long time. So we talked Shaedon Sharpe. Like I think he's in line for a huge year. Such an important year for him. Such an important year for the organization. Year 2 for Scoot Henderson is a big one. It is a big one. What are coming off the year that he had, and he was better to close the year for sure. Like the Scoot Henderson to close the year much stronger than he started, and that was pretty easy, but he's closing much stronger than he started. What are your expectations, or what are you looking for, Scoot, in year 2?
I mean, show any kind of semblance of what he did at the end of the season. You know, everybody puts the eggs in that basket versus what most of the year was. And you can certainly make a point that rookie year, 19-year-old kid doesn't know it. He gets his legs feeling out under him. I know Danny has highlighted what guys at his age largely have done in NBA history when they start. And I get it. Like there's a feel out process there, but in a way it feels a little boom or busty for me. And I know we just talked about the organization wanting to maybe double down and not want to be wrong on stuff, but like pretty massive draft is looming. And if they don't ace the tank, if they don't capture the flag, there's a kid I think he's going to Rutgers. He's a 6'5" point guard, Dylan Harper. If he looks the real deal and Scoot's kind of what he was this year, his shooting splits are not very good. He's largely inconsistent. He struggles with turnovers here and there, and he's just not an elite scorer who's giving you a high volume assist. Like you have to take best player. You're just not in a position to be sitting there going, well, positional need. And like, you can't be picky. You're not that organization. You won 21 games last year. Your over-under is 22.5. I'd imagine they're going to aim to hit under because they want to be in the best position possible. And if it doesn't go your way the way it didn't go your way this year in the draft lottery, there might be a dude playing the same position coming out of college that makes all of us go, oh, a bigger, more athletic version of that guy. Yes, sign up. So it's not like his season or career is necessarily going to be a failure per se, but with the draft looming and the lottery luck being what it is, Mike, man, you follow college hoops. Like, this feels very huge for me with Scoot's future here in Portland.
It's weirdly big. I agree. It's bigger than it probably should be. It's probably not fair to him, but it is what it is. Like, they are, because they haven't done some stuff, right? Because they haven't traded away all the vets and like truly torn it down. Because they're just like, hey, we kind of like where we are. We're going to be patient with this. And part of why we're being patient is because we believe in the building blocks, I think, is the subtext of it. We believe that we've got the first couple picks right, and we're not going to chase it and blah, 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 because we're going to build with what we need and all these things. It's like, if Scoot isn't that guy, then it's going to, like, a listener sent me an email that was like, how many games basically should I give Scoot? Like, if Scoot's bad for the first 5 games, is that too early to panic? And I was like, yeah, dude. Yeah, that's too early to, like, what do you, like, come on. And he was like, basically like, but like, if he didn't improve, if, he struggled last year and he doesn't show any signs of improvement. And I was like, that's the first week, but still, it's like the first week of basketball. At what point do you panic? I think that's real for the fan base, but I don't think that's real for the team. But I do think, like, February, March, if Scoot isn't like good, like, stringing together good stretches of games, 10, 15 games in a row where it's like, yeah, that's good, no caveats, then it gets a little bit dicey. I think he could get there with a little bit better situation, but okay, real quick, why didn't he play Summer League? What the hell?
So that's actually exactly what I was going to follow up when you were going off about how many games, right? Like, it better not be, hey, those last 18 games, like, cool, 36 games out of the 164 sample size we've had. We're bragging about 36 of them. I'm glad we're hanging on there strong. My take going into Summer League was, I saw him not on the roster. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Summer League. All right. I get it. And then I watched Summer League and I'm like, wait, no. Jaime Jaquez is playing? Wait a minute.
It was Gigi Jackson for me. I was like, are you kidding me? Gigi Jackson is still playing on game 5 for the Grizzlies. Like, are you kidding me? Yeah. And then I was like, okay, this is dumb. Like, this is, yeah.
100%. No, I think we're agreement. Like, I'm like, yo. And then I watched their first game, which, what a wild day that was. It's like an assassination attempt. And now we've got a Summer League game to care about. I'm like, what's going on here? And I'm watching. I'm like, this team can't even pass the ball. They don't have a competent dribbler. Klinger's setting good screens. They have nobody getting around him throwing lobs. And I'm like, would have been nice to see that third pick in the NBA draft a couple years ago. Would have been nice to see him even for a game. The logic doesn't line up to me. And it's the one thing I think about the organization and the rebuild. It's like, we're worried about injuries. Really? Like,
you can't be not in this business. You cannot play you cannot run a basketball team and be worried about dudes getting hurt playing basketball. If you are, you're already cooked.
Right. I agree with that. And so it's like, you can't tell me it's an injury concern thing. Cause like, if you're worried about injuries, what are you going to say at the start of the year?
They play 4 times a week for 6 months. Good luck. Like, a dude's 19.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And I'm pretty sure you've talked about this. I know Sean wrote about it. Like, it was an organization decision, reportedly, that he wanted to play. Maybe that's the word, but like, he wanted to play and the team was like, no, we don't need you to play. And I'm like, are you guys worried it's going to get exposed? Are you worried it's not going to look great? Because, like, I don't even need him to be an elite scorer. He could have gone into Summer League, Mike, just get around the screens, maybe hit a jumper or two, but largely attack, kick out to Chris, kick out to Rupert, throw a clean lob for the Klinger. Like, just show me that you look like a competent, good starting NBA player, especially the way all these guys we just named that are going in their second year had good rookie years. Show me that. Give me a little taste. And they didn't. And so I think it just, in a weird way, they almost kind of amp up the expectation or like the desire for him to be great. They do it a little bit more by not playing him. So it's like, okay, you didn't play him. You didn't need it, huh? All right. It better be there night 1. Now, I'm not going in 5-game panic mode here. I'm just saying, I don't know if we can go 4 months into the season and be like, he's 20. Let's go look at the history of 20-year-olds. That's not how it's going to be. People are going to be freaking out.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I believe this was the Ringer who had this joke, but it's like Dennis Smith Jr. Like there's a lot of survivorship bias, right? Like I know that like De'Aaron Fox got good and Darius Garland got good, but like Emmanuel Mudiay exists, like there's guys who didn't get good, right?
We love to hold on to those names though, don't we? We love to throw out Garland and Fox, and it's no different to me as like, we could win a title. The 04 Pistons were a thing, or we could win a Super Bowl. Trent Dilfer won one. It's like, cool. Thank you for pointing out the outliers of your sport. I don't want the outlier would be great, but like largely the history says when your list is like 13 plus players long and the others 2, what's the history of the league say? That longer list is the more normal thing.
What is a really good, like, okay, say the first 5 games, my listener gets blown up. Like Scoot just rocks. Like what is like a really good Scoot season look like? Like what is that like functionally? What do you envision like the best version of Scoot looking like?
The best version of Scoot is shooting 34.5% from 3, which I understand is still not amazing, but like I feel a little better about what he was from 3. I really do. I believe this. I think he could be a 16 to 17 and 10 guy. I think he can push for double digit assists. Now, the roster may not give him a great ability once they trade some of the vets, but if he can get right in that double digit assist, the 9.5, 9 to 10 assists a game category, the points were already 14.5 last year. Give me an extra bucket, be a little more reliable from 3, and just show me you can navigate screens. Because I think with the roster build, Mike, I'm almost curious how many assists he will lose at the end of the year kicking out to guys who can't hit shots, because we know they're going to tank. So it's like, what guys are gone? Like Ant's not hitting 3s anymore. Jeremy's gone. Is 2 hitting his 3s? Because if he's not and Scoot's hitting open looks, that's not necessarily Scoot's fault. So that's kind of where I'm at numbers wise, just looking more confident as well. Something that leaves me going, this dude can lead an offense. I don't need him to be my go-to guy, my number one offensive scorer. Just be a playmaker who sets guys up, something in that realm.
Yeah, for me, it's just if he can consistently beat that first line of defense. I think the thing I was most surprised with him as a rookie was he didn't just blow by guys. I believe he had 14 dunks as a rookie. To me, that's his most damning number. He dunks like freaking CJ McCollum. I thought he just needs to be more explosive, like functionally explosive. He had a dunk in the final game he played against the Hawks. This is game 81. Yes, I'm talking about game 81 of an 82 game season. He had a hammer in transition. Let's see like one of those, every 10 games or so. Let's have at least 8 crazy dunks on the year and just easily beating that first line of defense. Because if he does that, if he lives in the paint, it changes everything. And it allows it'll obviously he's going to have to be able to shoot, but I think that definitely changes the calculation. Okay. You mentioned Clingan. We could talk a little more Scoot, but let's talk Kling Kong. We're talking the young guys in today's show. Join us in that third segment. We're going to talk the Klinger, I believe, as Brandon is calling him. Join us in segment number 3, won't you? Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You're still listening to Locked On Blazers. Still chatting with Brandon Sprague at 1080 The Fan. So, did you have a lingering Scoot thought you wanted to share with us?
Well, the other part too, I just wanted to add to it because I think you're right. Like the athleticism, it'd be nice to see a little more than that. Also, like early on, man, that cat couldn't stay out of foul trouble. So just learn from your rookie year, your rookie mistakes. Stay on the court. Like the team's going to need a competent point guard, especially if a certain player playing that position that's probably going to start for them. If he gets moved to a contender or a more viable team, it's his team. Like that's officially it. The organization is handing off from one era to this new rebuilt era of young guys. And so it's like, can you stay on the court? I want you to be able to not go out there and worry about you fouling out of games. That's the only thing I would add to what you said, because I largely agree. Speaking
of fouling out, Donovan Clingan didn't foul that much in Summer League. Less than 3 fouls per game in 25 minutes, 2.7 fouls per game. I have that on top of my head, not even in my notes. Klinger, listen, let's not worry about the offense right now. Mm-hmm. I think he looked pretty good on defense. What'd you think in your 4-game sample size of Donovan Clingan?
My 4-game summer league sample size, aside from debating like what nickname will stick the most of all the ones that have been thrown out about him, Mike, he is like a couple injuries away from making me feel like he might be a sneaky little decoy. Like he's like 4th on a list with long odds. We're like, I don't know, man. Donovan Clingan plays this amount of games. I was encouraged that, he played a little bit more statistically speaking than he did at Connecticut, but that's probably about the minutes he'll play per game with DA here.
Yeah.
In the way that I'm talking about Scoot learning, it felt like in real time that dude learned like the minute he stepped foot on court, right? Like you talk about his average fouls per game. It dropped after game 1. Just his confidence. I thought his kind of leadership, even though it's not like the kind of leadership that elite scorers show, I'll give you a quick play. I want to say it was their 2nd or 3rd game. They're playing Philly. And he caught the ball at the elbow. He turned. There was 3 seconds left. I'm watching in my garage. I'm screaming, shoot it, shoot it. He kicks, he turns. Chris Murray wide open. Chris bangs, he bricks it, misses it. And instantly Donovan runs up to him, dabs him up, basically shoot that again. Like that's the kind of stuff that's tiny, but I love it. And I was curious to see if the UConn pedigree, because that's a great program. Obviously, we know that they've won multiple national championships. Guys won 4 straight titles from high school to college. I just wanted to see if some of that stuff carried over. And I largely felt like it did. Feels like he really can learn really quickly. He's very smart with how he positions himself. And hey, breaking news. It's nice to have a big body in the paint.
He's huge.
People.
He is huge.
It scares people. It was one of the reasons, Mike, I was willing to listen to the Zach Edey stuff. I'm like, hey, I'll take the big body guy in the paint if it gets people, if it deters them from attacking and makes things a little harder. And I thought he lived up to the billing because I didn't expect him a whole lot offensively. He showed me a lot defensively. That was a smart player in summer league.
Yeah, he's got slow feet and a fast brain, and that really he's not going to be whizzing around and checking guards at 35 feet. Like what I like about him is that he knows what he does. Like, and I will say this as a caveat: is like we were kind of hard on Scoot in this first segment. After the first game, I saw Scoot play in summer league. I was all in, man. He played so well. He played so well against the Rockets, and I was like, this dude's got it. He's really got it. And then obviously, so like a lot of stuff can change from Vegas, but yeah, I just think Clingan has such a good feel on defense. Like he just knows, and he just knows what he is. Like he's like, I'm 7'3", 280, 7'2", 280. Like I'm just going to be big and in the way. And like, honestly, for young guys trying to figure out where they just get on the court and be okay, be like decent, knowing how it works is really important. And I think he has a really strong foundation there. The offense is dicey. I know this, he'll be better with better guards. I think particularly if he played with someone like Anthony Simons for an extended period, who's going to draw attention and can shoot. I'm really fascinated how a team guards a Scoot Henderson, Donovan Clingan pick and roll. If neither dude can shoot it, how low do you go? How low are they willing to go on that screen? Like, will they dip down to the charge circle and come back up? No.
Right.
It'll be fascinating to see how they use him, but I think he can get into the game because of his defense and because he understands there. And then we'll see what he ends up on offense. I hated the 3-point shooting. How do you feel about the 3-point shooting?
The 3-point shooting is not something that I'm really aiming to see a whole lot from him. I know they keep raving about it. They're in practice, he's hitting these shots. Look, they're going to get to a point where I'm not going to care because I just want them to lose basketball games. And that's not always aesthetically pleasing. I give him a couple years. I'm not going to rush to judgment on what he's shooting, nor do I think he's going to be shooting more than 2 of these a game at all. So I'm not really looking about that. What stuck out to me, and I'm curious if you kind of saw something similar. How many times did you feel like, throw it up? Oh, okay. All right. We're not going to give the guy a lob. And I think his hands are good. I think you described it well of slow feet, fast brain. He can process information very quickly. And especially in that first game, it's just how many times I counted, all right, no lob pass. Okay, no lob pass. He wasn't going to, tear up the summer league in points per game. I think he could have had a little more if he had a competent guard throwing him actual chances at the rim because he's so big. He doesn't need a whole lot. You just need to give him an opportunity, and I think he could finish those. So I'm not expecting a whole great big improvement from him offensively from what he was. In fact, I don't think Portland drafted him for that. I think that's the high end part of him. When you talk about ceiling a player, I think they drafted him for exactly what we saw. crash the boards, be a nuisance, set big screens on people, and make life a little easier for your teammates while hitting some shots off the glass and pushing, helping push tempo up if they actually ever do that in Portland. So I think exactly what we saw is why they drafted him. I don't think there's this real push or need for him to be some great offensive juggernaut who's suddenly shooting threes the way Marc Gasol or Brook Lopez did or does.
Yeah, I think I think you're right. Like I do, and I wonder how much they use his passing to change things. I just think to me, some of his shooting was like, well, how the heck else am I going to score? Like he's shooting threes because he was like, if I'm not going to get this back in an advantageous spot. So maybe when he's playing with a little bit better guards, then he can like you said, get easy lobs. He's not a big lob guy. Like he played his 2 years at UConn. The other two centers, both years were lob guys. And he wasn't. He's not a leaper. He's huge, and so he'll get lobs because he's huge, but he's not like, you can't like throw it up to like 16 feet and have him go get it.
He's not lively. He's not a Derek Lively.
Yeah. But he's big, and like he'll dunk it. I'm not worried about that. He'll have some dunks because he's gigantic. To me, I wish that they were a little more functional, such that it wasn't like the best version of a player that was going to play next to Scoot Henderson as a pick and roll partner, shoots threes and can pass. So like, I get why they want Donovan Clingan to be that, because if he can shoot threes and pass, he's a great fit with a point guard who can't really shoot. Like he's ideal to like pair next to a point guard who can't really shoot, because it just changes the way you have to guard things. So I kind of get it with him. He just he took more threes than free throws, like it's just like you want him to.
Well, I agree with you, but like also that's kind of summer league, right? Like, isn't that what summer league is for? Just, hey, fire these up. Let's see where you're at. We'll break your percentages down. We'll see what spots maybe you came closer to making them in. He's also what pick was he? Was he 7? I forget what pick they had.
7.
Seventh pick in a bad draft, like a draft that nobody really liked all that much. And maybe they got a steal in the draft, given what we saw Alex Sarr not doing for Washington. But I think largely you're right, but like it was summer league. They didn't really care if they won the summer league title. That wasn't important. They knew he was limited with the guards that were playing around him. I think it was like, just shoot it, shoot.
Yeah. Sure. I think there's some to that, where it's just like he shot more threes in 5 games or 4 games in Vegas than he did in all of college, because like, one, he's trying to do that and he's like trying to grow into that, and there's no better environment to be like, yeah, try it. Like, go ahead, try it. Like, this is a wonderful spot to do that. Let's how about this? You want to come back for another show later this week?
I would love to hop on with you. I mean, we got a whole lot more we could talk about. So yeah, I'd love.
Yeah, let's talk about roster construction, Denny Avdia, and a whole bunch more. Join us. How about in Wednesday's program when Brandon will be back for that one? Dear listeners, tell your friends about the podcast. It's available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Come back and listen to Wednesday's show. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.